El Salvador has become the first country to accept Bitcoin as a national currency. From Tuesday, banks, businesses and government institutions have been ordered to accept payments in the cryptocurrency. President Nayib Bukele is hoping to entice people with handouts of Bitcoin worth $30. But many oppose the government's move, and as Mobin Nasir reports, winning over critics could be difficult given the volatility of the cryptocurrency prices.
This quiet coastal village in El Salvador is making waves in global cryptocurrency markets. In 2019, Zulma Rivas, who sells fresh fruit here in El Zonte, along with other vendors, began accepting Bitcoin as payment. It was part of a pilot project called Bitcoin Beach. And organizers say it's helping the villagers earn and save more.
So for most of the people in this community, they don't have access to bank accounts. They don't have access to payment apps like a lot of us do in the US or in Europe. And so this was them bringing them kind of into the digital world. They were able to now make online payments. They're able to send money back and forth to family members, even hundreds of miles away. And they're able to do all this with very low or almost non-existent fees.
The government says this exercise was so successful that it's now making the cryptocurrency legal tender across El Salvador. The National Treasury has already purchased 400 bitcoins. They're worth about $21 million based on current market prices, and 200 ATMs and 50 bank branches have been equipped to handle cryptocurrency transactions. President Nayib Bukele is hoping a cash reward will entice more people to use the government's cryptocurrency app called Chivo.
Any person who downloads this app will receive the equivalent of $30 in Bitcoin.
That's encouraging many Salvadorans to get crypto savvy.
The business with Bitcoin has turned out very well. When the currency was at a higher value, there were quite a lot of gains. But the experience has been good even when the price dropped lower.
It's easier to adapt to Bitcoin. I'm personally no longer interested in the dollar. I don't want to walk around with cash in my wallet.
But labor unions and representatives of pensioners oppose the use of Bitcoin.
We know this coin fluctuates drastically. Its value changes from 1 second to another, and we won't have any control over it. The big investors will.
They should not dare pay us with Bitcoin, because then they will have us on the streets every day demanding to be paid in US dollars. We won't accept any of this.
The president says these fears are unwarranted.
There has been a nasty campaign about this, that salaries or pensions will be paid in Bitcoin. This is not true. Both salaries and pensions will continue to be paid in dollars.
These assurances have failed to bring protests to an end, and even many of those who are not demonstrating are hesitating to invest in Bitcoin because they fear the volatility in its price could wipe out their savings. Mobin Nasir, TRT World.
For more on this, let's speak to Jeffrey Tucker in Austin, Texas. He's a crypto market analyst and president of the Brownstone Institute for Social and Economic Research. Good to have you back on the program, Jeffrey. When El Salvador's president announced his Bitcoin plan in June, he said it would help to bring in some of the 70% of El Salvador's 6.5 million people who don't have bank accounts into the formal economy. He also said that it would help to unshackle El Salvador from the formal global financial system. What do you make of those aims, and do you think it'll work?
I think those aims are good, and I do think it's going to work. I mean, that's kind of a bold prediction, but having traveled in El Salvador many times, in Nicaragua and Costa Rica and other countries in the region, Panama, what you find is a level of sophistication over exchange rates there that you don't find in the U.S. I mean, people are actually really, really smart, really clever about using this kind of technology, or at least understanding what exchange rates do and how they are. In this sense, completely different from Americans. We only use the dollars, but Salvador, I think they're going to adapt very well to Bitcoin. And also, it's very possible that El Salvador is going to become a global hub for cryptocurrency now as the first nation state to adopt this stuff. That could be very interesting for investors around the world, for a very easy transition from Bitcoin to dollars. The other thing is we're going to see an experiment here in using a legal tender cryptocurrency for remittances. And that is going to be huge because Western Union is slow and expensive and a lot of counterparty risk whereas Bitcoin is very quick and very cheap, with no counterparty risk. It could be a lesson to the entire world. And I tell you, all the central bankers, in fact, all the bankers in the world are watching this very, very carefully.
But let's look at the volatile nature of Bitcoin. Even though Bitcoin is seen as one of the more stable cryptocurrencies, compared to the US dollar, it still is highly volatile. For example, Bitcoin reached the record high of about $63,000 back in April, but then a few weeks later in July, it plummeted to below $30,000. It's now sitting at around $51,000. So if the average Salvadoran would say sink in $1,000 1 month, it is foreseeable that their savings could be wiped out in a matter of weeks. So why then would people look to embrace this currency, which is still very volatile?
Well, I'm not sure about wiped out, but yeah, they could lose a significant amount of money in the course of several weeks. But anybody can look at the charts and see where Bitcoin's been over the last 10 years and see that it's in the long term a deflationary currency, which is to say it grows in value relative to goods and services. Now, central bankers don't like deflationary currencies. They like the inflationary currencies, like the dollar is becoming. So I think in light of inflationary trends for the dollar right now, and actually in Europe generally, Bitcoin seems like a pretty good bet. And there's nobody going into this that's unaware of the volatility. The point of the volatility is to take a bit of a bet on the upside, and people have the option to do it or to not do it. It's not like anybody's being forced to use Bitcoin in El Salvador right now. And I just don't think it's the job of governments to protect their citizens against volatility in markets. I mean, people like this kind of volatility, and that's one of the appeals of Bitcoin, is that it's going to grow in value rather than shrink in value. You heard that guy in your interview saying he doesn't want anything to do with the US dollar. That really made me laugh. So I believe it. I think a lot of Salvadorans are going to be in a similar situation. You notice that the wallet app this morning crashed, and that's not because something went wrong. It's because too much went right, and too many people were trying to download it all at once. So I think this is going to be very popular, especially in Salvador. It's the perfect country to start this. And I'm really tired of hearing Americans all talk about, how people in El Salvador are too poor and uneducated to use Bitcoin. That is utter rot. They're much more suited to using it than most Americans ever would be.
So it sounds like for now, at least, you see Bitcoin being used alongside the US dollar, not as a replacement for the currency.
Yeah, I think that's for now. That's right. In fact, I'd say for the foreseeable future, for the next 10 years or something like that. I mean, if things go well in Salvador, you're going to start seeing Argentina take a look, and Nicaragua take a look, Costa Rica. You're going to see other Panama, and then it's going to be other governments around the world. And this is going to be a gradual process. But what I think may be happening here is something that many of us had dreamed was possible back in 2011 or 2012, which is a genuine private global currency that never stops trading, that's uncensorable and operates peer-to-peer, operating as a competitor to nation-state monies. So in so many ways, this is a pivotal moment in the history of this industry. For many of us, it's a bit of a dream come true, and we almost can't believe it. So I think it's right to call today, like some people online are calling it B-Day, the beginning of Bitcoin as an international currency.
Okay, well, let's see how this experiment unfolds. Jeffrey Tucker, a pleasure as always. Thank you for joining us.